The following program is brought to you by Jack Miller.
It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Forget what they teach you in school. This is real life, not Wall Street, but Main Street. A real show on what's really involved with starting and running a business with all the ups and downs. Our guests will answer your questions and provide you with valuable information. Stay tuned and join in the conversation.
Hello, everyone. This is Jack Miller here with my main man, Todd Cohen. I hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving week. We're going to have a super great show today. First, we're going to talk about medical marijuana with Ben Pollara of the United for Care organization. Then we're going to have Jill Zarin and Ali Shapiro on the phone. But let's start right away in. Who doesn't want to talk about medical marijuana? Ben, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Hey, Ben, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be with us. I forgot to tell you the little condition, though, that if this legislation passes, Todd Cohen and I want some free samples. Or at least
we might want some free samples anyway.
That's
but
right.
That's beside the point.
I've literally never done a medical marijuana event or speaking program where
anyway, it's the
somebody
same
has not made the free samples joke, so thank you for keeping that going.
It shows how original we are. We're boring Jewish guys. Ben,
it's an easy go-to.
I hear you. Why don't you start out by, I have like a bunch of questions I know Todd does. Why don't you first start out telling us what United for Care is, and what the issue is, what you guys are trying to do with the legalization of medical marijuana. Because I don't understand why it's not legal, and I don't understand why anyone would object to it. Give us a little background, then we have some technical questions.
I've been doing this for almost 3 years, and it's difficult for me to understand why it's not legal, but it has a lot to do with our state legislature and the politicians in Tallahassee who serve the special interest versus serving the will of their constituents. But listen, United for Care is a political committee in Florida, and we are the proponent of a constitutional amendment to legalize medical marijuana in the state of Florida. We were the proponent of the amendment that was on the Florida ballot in 2014 that received 58% of the Florida vote. Only in the Sunshine State is 58% considered a loss. You have to get 60% here to pass a constitutional amendment. So we are back at it for 2016. We are currently in the process of collecting the nearly 700,000 signatures from registered Florida voters that is required to put an item on the general election ballot as a constitutional amendment. So that's just the long and short of what we're doing, and we're doing it because there are literally hundreds of thousands of sick and suffering Floridians in the state who could potentially benefit from the use of medical marijuana. Almost half the country, 23 states plus D.C., have medical marijuana laws, and Florida should be the next.
First of all, where does someone go who's listening to this who wants to sign the petition? How do they sign the petition? They
go to our website, www.unitedforcare.org, unitedforcare.org. And they can print and sign and send in the petition there. There's also paid petition gatherers all over the state. So if you go to, concerts and football games and, anywhere where there's a big concentration of people, chances are you're going to see a petition gatherer with a clipboard asking you to sign. But don't wait for that. Go to unitedforcare.org.
You are a career fundraiser, political lobbyist, political consultant. How does UFC relate to your LSN work?
It doesn't. So LSN Partners is my day job. I'm a government relations consultant and a partner at that company. But my background is in campaigns and elections, and so I've always maintained my own political campaign business separate and apart from what we do at LSN.
So the benefits of medical marijuana are, as I understand them in my layman's term, they provide relief to people who are sick and in pain, correct?
Yeah, listen, marijuana is a complex plant. It's been around, longer than we've been around, and it has quite a few benefits, right? It's a powerful anti-inflammatory agent. It can be a powerful painkiller for certain types of pain. It can relieve anxiety, although for some people it increases anxiety. It's been shown to have tremendous impactfulness in reducing or in some cases eliminating the occurrence of seizures in folks with epilepsy and other sort of seizure disorders. So it's really a pretty complicated but pretty cool plan that has a lot of potential medical applications, and we're just not seeing those applications take place in the state of Florida because of the law.
It sounds like that, from what I read and hear, that I hope it passes this time, and it sounds like it's going to, like you have momentum on your side. When it passes, what will be the system for dispensing it? Will it be through, can anyone dispense it, or are there going to be a certain number of stores and a certain number of farms? How's that going to work?
So it'll be largely up to the state legislature and to the State Department of Health to kind of set up the system. And so we don't know exactly what it'll look like, but Senator Jeff Brandis, who's a Republican from Pinellas County and really like one of the thinkers in the state legislature, introduced a bill earlier this year in the last session and introduced another one in advance of the session that's starting in January that he has said publicly this time around, he doesn't believe has too much of a shot of actually passing, but he sees it as kind of a framework for implementing a medical marijuana constitutional amendment. And so, it's got to strike the balance between, an open market where there's good competition and people can serve, their customers well because there's an economic incentive to do that with a very tight system of rules and regulations that acknowledges that this is something that's been illegal and if we're gonna create a business to dispense it and distribute it amongst sick and suffering Floridians, we got to do it carefully and in a responsible way.
I just read that recently it was approved for 5 licensed dispensaries and 20 licensed farming areas or growing areas for Florida. Are those actually approved, or is that part of the plan? Where are we with that? And also, as a secondary question, which is more important, how are those licenses going to be sort of meted out?
Well, so there have been 5 that have been approved under this what they call the Charlotte's Web law, which is a law that the legislature passed back in 2014. It's a very limited type of medical marijuana, and going back to what I said about a free market. This is not a free market system. This is 5 licenses for a state of 20 million people. So that doesn't really work. And there's been an amendment to one of the upcoming bills in the legislature to expand it to 20. That's far from done. So so I don't have any great hope for that law, but that's why we're pushing this constitutional amendment.
What's the economic impact of this? I guess it's a prediction. No one knows on the public sector and the private sector. In other words, I would think this would bring in tens of millions of dollars in private sector commerce, as well as a fortune in taxes to the state.
Right. Well, I mean, listen, from the state level, at the very least, the state has said that it'll be cost neutral for them because they're going to be able to levy fees and registration taxes on the businesses and on the users who have the identification card. So at the end of the day, it's not going to cost the state $1, and then it's going to be up to them how they want to tax it, whether it's subject to regular sales tax, whether they levy an additional tax on the sale of medical marijuana and related products, or whether they treat it like pharmaceutical drugs, which don't have any sales tax, which is how I happen to think that they should treat it. And then, from a private sector perspective, I mean, the State Department of Health estimated something like, 1,400 medical marijuana businesses open in the first 2 years. So, some will be retail facilities, some will be growing facilities, distribution, transportation. I'm not an economist, I'm a political hack, but that's a pretty big deal potentially.
How ridiculous do you find it that in this country they sell these very dangerous drugs, with prescription to all of us, basically legally, that the pharmaceutical industry manufactures, and they have side effects ranging anywhere from headaches to death all across the board, but they're serious, dangerous drugs. And yet this drug, which, may be dangerous to some and may be dangerous societally in certain ways like alcohol is, I don't really understand how they can regulate this in what's supposed to be a free economy.
Listen, I'm with you. I happen to believe strongly that as a society, and Florida has seen this, I think, more acutely than most as a result of the pill mill crisis we went through a few years ago. But as a society, we're too heavily drugged, and the drugs that we get are dangerous. And now, I'm not going to say marijuana is a benign substance, because it's not. I don't think there's any such thing as a benign substance. But when you stack it up against the pharmacopoeia that we have, that our doctors are able to prescribe from, things like Percocet, OxyContin, Xanax, Valium, Adderall, it is not even in the ballpark of as dangerous, as potentially addictive, as potentially lethal as those things. There is never in the history of human civilization been a single overdose death from the use of marijuana. Never.
Right.
And you can't say that about Advil. So it's mind-boggling to me as well. But that's why we're trying to change this law.
I have another question for you. This is coming from my 18-year-old immature mind. When a female takes marijuana or smokes marijuana, how does it make her? Is she like more? I don't know how to use the word. Provocative.
Horny?
Yeah, that's a good word.
You are an infant.
I don't know what to say to that, but you ever seen the movie Annie Hall?
No, but I'm going to go watch it.
You never saw Annie Hall?
Movie. I think it got Best Picture, 30 years ago.
It's my favorite comedy.
Diane Keaton is dating Woody Allen, and she has to smoke a joint before they have sex every time. Now, that could just be that she's trying to have sex with Woody Allen, but
there you go.
That's all I can comment on that one.
Is one of the carve-outs and the requirements? I know it's going to be for like cancer and epilepsy and back pain and all those terrible things. But for like Jewish men whose wives don't want to have sex with them, they can get a prescription for medical marijuana.
I think you're on your own with that one.
He's on his own with a lot of them.
I live in my own world.
Marijuana can help with a lot of things. I don't know that's one of them.
I'm just teasing you. So again, could you give out the web address? Because I joke around with this, but this is actually very serious. I actually happen to have a friend of mine who lives in the state where medical marijuana is not legal, and his daughter's has epilepsy, and he takes her a couple times a year across the country to a state where it's legal. It's
right.
Crazy. So could you give out the website address again? I know I tease around with this issue, and I apologize for any women who are offended. But I don't apologize too much. But what's the web address? Because I want people to go to the web address and sign up, register.
Well, I suspect you're not only offending women as it relates to marijuana. So
I'm an equal opportunity.
He is
offender.
Equal opportunity. There's no doubt.
Well, I appreciate it. It's unitedforcare.org. United4care.org.
Now, I don't know if it was last year, but I remember reading a whole article like in the newspaper about like this back and forth between, I guess, someone who works with you, John Morgan, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah.
About this issue, and I don't. First of all, I don't understand about Wasserman Schultz in general, because she seems to be on the wrong side of every issue that it's important to me in general.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. But what happened there? Because it was very funny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened there. I just know that Debbie for whatever reason is lock, stock, and barrel against medical marijuana. Every time there's been a vote in the U.S. House of Representatives to soften medical marijuana laws, or even to allow the Veterans Administration doctors to recommend marijuana to veterans in states with legal medical marijuana, by the way, Debbie has voted against it. So so it ultimately boiled up into this flap with John Morgan last year, which I think it's unfortunate that the leader of the Democratic Party, somebody who I have a lot of admiration for, has taken such an anachronistic, uncaring, uncompassionate position on this issue.
It's not the only issue, and by the way, it might do her good to smoke, a nice little joint or something, once in a while, and really figure out what's going on in general, because she needs to relax. I don't know.
No, listen, it's been a point of frustration. I mean, I've always been a huge Debbie Wasserman Schultz fan and supporter and donor, and I'm not anymore. It was just this is too personal for me. I'm not a single issue guy, but this is a big deal of an issue for me. and it's not just that she's opposed to it; she's opposed to it in such a hardline way, that it's really changed my opinion on her. And we went through this whole big fight with John, which it is what it is. Everybody's got a right to their opinion. I just don't agree with hers.
Ben, coming on. We got to cut it short. We got a commercial break. Give out the web address one more time, if you would.
Thank you guys for having me. It's unitedforcare.org.
Ben, thank you very much. Everyone else, we're going to go to a commercial break. We come back. We got none other than Jill Zarin from Housewives fame.
Wow, what a party today.
Thank you, Ben.